Hey everyone, Rick Hinderer here, and we are in the bunker. I'm in the bunker with the one and only Derrick from Los Angeles, California. Of course, he's with Steel Flame, as you all know. So anyway, Derrick came in. When was it? Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, so Derrick came in Friday.
10 degrees. Freezing.
And it was 80 degrees.
Yeah, from 80 degrees in Southern California to 10 degrees in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did I come out in the freezing cold?
Exactly. That's one
Why
thing.
the hell would I come out in the freezing cold?
Yeah, that's one thing I was wondering too, Derrick.
Yeah. I just showed up on your doorstep.
Yeah, I was like in the shop, and I'm like, they said somebody's here for you, and I was like, hey, cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, anyway, so Derrick, him and I talked at the last show, and we got some exciting news for you. But we're really just kind of just hanging out for the past couple of days and having a great time, especially up here at Roscoe's. Always fun to
Secret Roscoe's.
Yeah. The one thing that's really cool that I think that a lot of us knife makers and artists and craftsmen do is we have a lot of fun when we get together and we talk about brainstorming and things like that. A lot of really cool projects, and anybody will tell you guys, any of the knife makers and stuff, a lot of cool projects. And collaborations end up starting with a visit to a shop or
remember the first time we met?
Shot show.
Yeah, I didn't even know who Rick was, or he was just Rick yet. No, he was at the gathering.
That's right, gathering first, and then it was shot show. Yeah.
Then I stalked Rick. I thought, we need to do some stuff for Hinderer Knives, which was worked out to be
that was gathering 1. And and I look back, I remember I was looking at and I'm like, wow, some jewelry guys here, and it's like, holy shit, that's nice. That's like totally different than. And I got Lori something, I can't remember.
Yeah, you got Lori something. And then that was kind of the start.
That was the start. Yeah. It was the pod. We shared the pod.
Yeah.
There at USN, and of course, this year, 2018 is a 10th year for the USN show, the gathering.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we're the founding every year. 10 years. So let's shout out to the USN and the gathering. So Derrick and I's been not only brainstorming, but just talked about stuff, so we're going to share with you guys, and just, some of the things that we talked about, some of the things that we love, that I love.
Yeah.
Obviously you guys can see a little bit.
Rick's collection. A tiny, tiny part of his collection. If you could only see the rest.
If you can only see the rest. No, this is, ever since, and that's the cool thing. We talked about this. This is something that I just learned about you, and maybe you about me when you seen my model airplanes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I have a stack of model airplanes.
Yeah. And then we both started. I started, I think, probably 6 years old was my first model airplane. And ever since then, when I was a kid, I built every single model airplane ever made. And then some. So when the kids would have their birthday parties, my friends would have birthday parties, they would get a model airplane, for their birthday. They'd bring it to my house to help them build it. So, I got a lot of brain damage from sniffing all that glue.
Tester's glue. But what's neat is the fact that I started when I was 6 years old building model airplanes. And and it's a thing that what's really, I think, cool about that, and it's something that I'm sure there's some scientific thing behind. You're a craftsman. You turned into being a world-renowned craftsman, building really cool stuff, and I'm a craftsman. All because of model airplanes. So guys, tell your kids, buy your kids a model airplane.
Don't get out the same glue we had.
So
they don't want to end up like us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the glue's a little safer nowadays.
A little safer.
But no, it's something that I think maybe some of the kids nowadays are lacking some.
You know, it's a start. I mean, it was something that we got to do when we were young, and then and even in my garage growing up, my dad was a machinist. So I grew up with a lathe and a drill press in the garage. And I still have the lathe and drill press in my shop.
And you still use that lathe too?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. That's some of the stuff that when you have an affinity for your craft or you know what you're making and for me, I have to make things. I make things, whether it's a knife, whether it's a pen, whether it's double knuckle shot glass, whether it's I have to make something.
Oh yeah.
I'm making this video, so and being creative. It's making something, and you're the same way. And it's neat to spend time with a fellow craftsman. You know, of your ability. You know, to see this mirror. You know, it's like so it's really cool. So. Thank you for making the trip all the way out to
thank you. Thanks for
northern Ohio.
Thanks for letting me in the door.
Of course, it's cold. In fact, Derrick's going to have to head out a little early tonight because of good old Ohio weather. Freezing rain is coming.
Boy.
So practically the worst. Those of you guys that live in the states like Ohio that we get to deal with this kind of weather. It's 36 degrees and falling right now. So, but let's talk about some of the
fun things.
Some of the stuff later on the table. I tell you what, I'm going to start off first. Derrick gifted his latest spinner to me last night, and you guys can see it there. I know the video camera can't zoom in like that from where we're at, but he's got the Crusader Cross Shield. On the slug, and it's a three. What do you call it? Is it the 3-prong?
That's our. What do I call it? Oh, I call it the sledge.
The sledge. Okay.
Because it has a similar look to the bracelet that I made, so that's kind of something that I kind of stick with. You know, I was trying to think of all kinds of different names for it, but try this, try that. It was all taken, and
right.
I didn't want to infringe on anyone's name or anything like that. So. I stuck with something that we kind of been using for a long time. So.
It's great because you've already got the recognition into with something else. But I tell you what, folks, these things. I was having so much fun last night, drinking German schnapps and and sitting there, and I found myself I wasn't even thinking about it. Subconsciously, as we were talking and brainstorming and coming up with.
Must be that artist thing there.
Thing. Exactly. So, hey, that's cool. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So, we were talking about all kinds of stuff and our appreciation for firearms.
Yes.
And it seems like
I just like them a little bit.
Just a little.
I can take them and leave them. You know.
But what's really cool is you like it for a whole nother. You know, to me, I could appreciate the quality of the piece and the work that goes into it. And it's really interesting to see the history of, how it's evolved, even within my lifetime, how the craftsmanship has evolved over time. But then you get into the history of the piece, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you can do some more videos on that
because
it's really, really interesting to hear your stories about the history of some of these pieces.
Well, just very quickly, one thing about the history of I'm a history buff. A lot of people know that I'm really into history, especially world history, military history, and the one thing that firearms, the role that it plays in our history, and the human history, the human condition is defined by the weapons that we make, good or bad. That's the way it is, and technology's advanced because of the advancements in our weapons, and that's just it's the human condition. So I look at collecting a lot of my historical firearms as a window into the past, and the window into the past opens up that that door into the future.
Yeah.
You know, and by learning from the past, you know, hopefully we can change the future.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
But it's cool. I'm going to be talking a whole lot more about
cool.
The history part of it and some of the videos that I'm going to be doing on my YouTube channel.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about that. I kind of wish we videotaped some of that earlier.
Yeah, it would have been about 5 hours of tape for you guys, but it was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
So.
Well, what do you got there?
Let's talk about looking at some of your knives, and Rick has probably the largest Hinderer collection of art knives. What's really interesting to see is that you actually bought these back, right?
Yes.
From different customers.
Yes.
And not many people know that, you know, what Rick did prior to making his tactical folders. I mean, he made beautiful, beautiful art knives. I mean, from scratch. And I'm looking at something like this here, and I'm thinking, wow, how the heck did you make all this? Because you even forged your own steel.
Yes,
I mean,
I made all my own steel, all my Damascus, Mokame, everything.
Yeah, everything from scratch. I mean, you look at this thing and all the detail, if you were to look at this under magnification, it's like impeccable. You know, absolutely nothing like the look and feel of the knives you make today, but again, too, it's a whole different animal.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering what got you to change from this to making the knives that you make today.
Well, you know, I spent, you know, almost, I've been making knives 30 years this year, and almost half of it was spent making art knives and, you know, fancy. And, you know, and I see a lot of my friends, the knife makers that are actually started in the using section, and they're going more into the art knives now. And I started in the art knives and then kind of went into the
backwards.
It's kind of a flip flop,
whatever reason. Yeah.
And it was, you know, mostly a lot of the time period when I kind of made the change was around the time that I got on the fire department and became a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah.
And I started using my knives in a different, I got a different sense and appreciation of what the knives are to be used for and everything.
Or usefulness.
Mm-hmm. And it rekindled because I started in using knives, and then I just made my knives fancier and fancier, and then, you know, art knives, and then, you know, went back to the so it was something I always wanted to go back and do some of my designs that I had in my head that really weren't meant for an art knife, like this is a Carist style dagger. And that's kind of what I was like, you know something, I'm going to make some knives I'd use on the fire department, on the fire ground, and it just kind of went that way.
That's what
it's the ever evolving mind of an artist.
And there's, you know, you can, but the cool thing is you can go from that to this. I mean, but in my opinion, you build like one hell of a tank here. I mean, it's probably the most solid, you know, useful knife that you can get. I mean, well, you even did a video a long time ago, which well, maybe not that long ago, but
it was long enough ago. You're talking about the throwing knife video? Yeah.
Into a tree.
Yes. That was about as impromptu as us doing this video.
Yeah, but that's cool. I mean,
it's cool,
you know, this is something that I could say, yes, I could throw this into a tree as hard as I can, and nothing's going to happen to it. You know. Well, probably bounce back off because I wouldn't know how to.
Oh man, when that video I did, there were so many times that it's not on the video because I actually got it to stick every time. Well, the one time it was, I remember when I was practicing for that video, you know, I would wing that thing at the tree and it bounced off the tree back past my head.
Wow.
You know, a knife, and landed right on a rock.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? The only rock in the whole field, and my knife lands right on it. Clack, ricochets off of it, and I looked at it, and I mean, nothing happened to it. And I'm like, cool, even more of a test. You know.
So even then, I heard that you used to really put your knives through the test before you even launched them.
Yes.
I mean, what kind of things would you do?
Well, of course, the fire ground was a really good test, you know, and accident scenes on the fire department. That's what got a lot of a lot of the features that came on my Hinderer Rescue with Gerber came from, every one of the features on that knife came from a call out. As well as I do a lot of backpacking and hiking and things like that, where I always tape stuff to to test and evaluate. And I do silly things like park a 14-ton fire truck on an XM18 to see if it would fail. So the usual stuff like that. We just tested the lock on the new fifth generation XM18, which has a steel lock insert, and I hung 95 pounds off the front of it. Again, just to see, that was more for any kind of a slippage or anything. So I test everything because I want.
Make sure
I have a full lifetime warranty. However, the warranty is not any good if you're hanging off the side of a cliff and your knife fails.
Well,
it's not like, no problem. I'm just sending it in for warranty. You aren't going to be around for that. So that's why warranty is great. We have to use it sometimes for things that happen out of our control. But I want to build a knife to where you don't have to.
You think way beyond that part of it.
Exactly.
You think that someone's life could depend on that part of it. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's awesome. A lot of. So the one thing I want to ask you, Dee, is we touched on this a little bit earlier. And you've had. People talk about the size of skulls on your clips.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay.
And folks, that
it's not quite a Hinderer, but it's a great friend of ours.
Well, absolutely. I love knives. You love knives.
Yeah, I know.
You guys love knives.
It
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You've seen the knives in my collection too. That's why I tell people when I buy other knives, I have historical knives as well as other makers' knives. And they're like, well, why are you buying maker XYZ's knife when you can make it? And I'm like, but that's not. I made it then. He made it. And it's like. I like knives. Is that not obvious?
Oh yeah.
So no, absolutely. It's like I hang around with the Spartan guys from Spartan Blades and Tim Reeves from and Ann Reeves from Chris Reed Knives and Tim has one of my Slippies and I've got some Benzes and it's like this is the industry.
The best part of it.
It's the best part of it. We all are passionate about knives.
That's what we do.
Exactly. So that was a little sidebar, but anyway, check that out, folks. I mean come on, that's cool. That's cool as hell. And the one thing that Derrick brought up with me, it's not just and you've had the question why it's such a big. There's a use for that too. Why don't you tell them about the use for that?
The best thing about this is when you carry it right hand carry, which is the way most people carry it. And when you get into your sports car, it will scratch the paint off your sports car.
Oh yeah. Well, so will the mirrors on there. You got to be careful with those.
But I like carrying this mainly because then for a quick draw, my fingers go around like this here, and this is where my finger is, even if it's in my pocket. So as I pull it out, it's very easy to flip.
Yeah.
And to me, it's very quick. So it gives me really good traction to grab something. Quickly versus if it was flat, I'd be trying to get it out of my pocket. So,
right.
If I ever needed it really quick in an emergency or something like that, I needed to cut some string or rope, then that's how it would pull it out.
Yep, exactly. So it's this is what's neat about our craft is
Plus it's just like, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
It's just cool. It's just cool. But it does. It has a useful purpose. Now this one here that you gifted me at the California show. I tell you
that
what,
one is definitely ridiculous.
But it's cool in a badass way. So the thing about it is, folks, and this is something I remember when I came up with the gears on my knives. I had a couple guys who said, "Well, that's gadgety." I had a couple responses on my Instagram. That's gadgety, and I'm like, yeah, it is. It's a gadget.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just like gadgets.
It's gotta have fun.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Really, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. Is there a purpose? Is this doing anything? No. Well, except for the fact when you're sitting there thinking, and you're in class, and you know the professor's getting really wah 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 wah, and, you know. So at least you've got something that you can be able to, you know. But no, and this is, you know, and I remember Recoil Magazine. They did a short article on my double knuckle shot, and it was an online article. And I read it. It was a very well done article. And the guy in there stated, he said, "You know something? Do you really need this? No." No, you know, you could read the article in one way, like, the heck, he's bashing my product, you know, but it's true. But like he said, do you really need it? No, but, you know, sometimes we just like cool stuff.
It's
you know, and
there's
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, and so, well, I tell you what, you know, our other love, and, you know, we don't want to run out the tape on my camera, but is firearms. And being that tomorrow is Sunday Gun Day, and you know it's Saturday afternoon, but hey, you know we can talk about guns anytime we want. At some point, I'll talk. This gun behind Derrick is a Maxim machine gun, and there is tons of history with the Maxim machine gun, and I could do a whole video just on the Maxim machine gun and throw in some World War I. Blades to go with it, you know, and make it real interesting.
Just a few.
I've read an awful, just a few. I've read an awful lot about the Maxim machine gun, and that is that particular gun. I first seen it 25 years ago. A friend of mine owned it, and it is a what they call a transferable Class 3 firearm. So it's got a tax stamp, and it does fire. Even though I don't fire it that much, but it's a cool gun. Another one I want to talk about really quick, and I know Dee wants to talk about a couple of things that he found.
Not really, but yes.
This is something that I got when I was in Vegas for the SHOT Show, for the Antique Arms Show, and this is a Smith & Wesson Volcanic. And what's really neat about this firearm, this was the very first Smith & Wesson. So this is the grail of the Smith & Wesson collectors. So this was 1852 to 1854. And I was just absolutely
like the very first one that they've ever made.
The very first one that they ever made. Actually, even before Smith & Wesson really became Smith & Wesson. And so I never imagined myself ever owning one of these. They're that hard to come by. And I would like to thank my good friend, who's also a knife dealer, Paul Farina, for introducing me to this fine piece. So anyway, this is really cool, historic, and I can't wait to do a video and talk about the Smith & Wesson Volcanic and where its place in history.
Well, that's a really unique pistol too, right? Because of the way the breech opens.
Yes, this is a lever action. It's a lever action type pistol, and in a lot of ways you can kind of see the similarities with the Henry rifle and the Winchester Auto 1866 rifle, because that's where it came from. So a lot of people think, me too, I thought that the lever action rifle, that they took this from the lever action rifle. The lever action rifle that we know, all of them came from this.
From that. Cool.
So really, really interesting piece. So, and we're going to jump a few years ahead.
Oh, well.
And
so
Derrick's,
here we go. Colt Gold Cup. 45, favorite caliber. 1911, favorite pistol. Been shooting. I mean, this was probably my second pistol I ever owned. And when I got one, I tore it all apart. And I read this book on pistol smithing, and I actually cut it up, tightened the rails, fit a beaver tail, fit the barrel, squared out the trigger guard, checkered it, did the whole thing to it, without even knowing what the heck I was doing. I just wanted to. I mean, we learned on it. But what's really interesting is to see what this gun was, Series 70, 1970, right? I mean, it's like when they first came out with that. Which, for me, it's like, well, that's kind of right in the heyday of when I was growing up. But to see how the firearms have changed and evolved, I mean, tell me about this.
This is a Nighthawk. So Nighthawk is one of my favorite brands of 1911, custom 1911s. And this is their Heine, Richard Heine edition Nighthawk in a long slide. And he did that in a 10 millimeter. So really,
the technology of how things have evolved, it's really interesting to see, you know, because the Gold Cup was at that time the pinnacle of 1911.
Yeah, that was
the finish, the fit, the accuracy of those pistols were phenomenal in you know, in that time. And then nowadays with the technology, the machine work, and it's evolved. It looks almost identical.
Yeah.
But it's a very different pistol.
Very different. Very different.
And I think too, just like with your, you know, your craft and your knives, everything evolves and it changes. Even from when you first started doing, you know, the earlier tactical Hinderers, I could see differences from that to what's coming out now.
Right.
And even now you're evolving still, like with the
Gen 5.
Yeah, the Gen 5 with the lock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it may look almost identical, but that's what's cool about it, because you know, if you start collecting, if you start noticing what's going on with the different pieces, the time with the technology and the evolution, you know, things start refining.
Yeah.
If you keep working at it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that's what we do as craftsmen.
Yeah.
We're constantly thinking.
Yeah.
Constantly, never satisfied with.
Yeah.
With you know, the what's there now. We're always coming up with, you know, it's that's
like what if, or what can we
what
use,
if, what can we do, what can we do here, how can we change this, what you know, and constantly learning learning new techniques, new materials lead into new advances in what we're doing. I mean, knives are man's oldest tool.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, it's this whole thing of what you know, we're going back a long time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and
but it seems like it's so long, and then history is like long, and then all of a sudden, within our time frame, our lifetime, it just compressed and just exploded. I mean, it's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. But at the same time, I remember this happened to me. I was at Gerber when I was designing for Gerber. And I was in the office of Ron Robley, who was my contact with Gerber when I was doing collaborations. And they had to have a company meeting, so he had to get rid of me for a while.
Yeah.
So he said, "Hey, you want to hang out in the archives cage?"
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
So they you know, he opened the gate and let me in, and I was looking at stuff stacked up that was just phenomenal. I mean, we're talking prototype of the 5-degree slant Mark II, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is knife history going back decades. And we like to think, as I like to think as a designer, that a lot of the stuff we do is totally new. But I'm telling you, folks, there's some stuff from going back that is really cool.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's really cool.
Even if you take, even then, the craftsmanship way beyond. I might say, like, technology's really changed and evolved and helped us to build, you know, maybe even a better mousetrap, so to speak.
Right.
But still, the craftsmanship of some of these things that were ancient, that's what's really cool. And that's where I think we both have that appreciation for the antique pieces, the old pieces, because you look at it and you think, wow, how the heck did they make that?
How did they do that? And with what they
so
had.
Clean and so precise.
Yeah.
And knowing that they did it all by hand.
Yeah.
Which is, it's amazing.
And that's something that I'm going to start on my YouTube channel, a completely different series on talking about those older iconic knives and where they came from, their place in history, why we're all here today because of that. Knives played a huge role, you know, throughout history, and it's something that I think you folks would you know, really enjoy watching some of that, learning some of that, and seeing some of the artifacts that I've collected over the years, and the studying that I have done on these artifacts from a historical standpoint. And you'll get a connection, I think, like I have, and I'm sure you have, a connection from the past to the present, and why we do what we do today.
Oh yeah, and then, you know, those pieces that they created, you know, way back when, are the ones that inspire us to do what we do and to move forward. I mean, it's like, you know, it's never ending. I mean, we could never be that.
Yeah.
But we keep trying, but we keep trying. Be that.
We keep trying, but
you know.
but this is a good start.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Derrick. Hey, thanks a lot for coming all the way out here to Ohio.
Thanks for having me.
And next time I'm coming to LA, right? In the winter time?
Of course.
Where it's nice and warm.
Sure. Yeah.
Or we could do this like maybe on some Caribbean island or something like that.
That sounds good.
I can take my camera.
Okay. Let's do that.
So, all right, folks. Hey, listen. Thanks for joining me, and you know this will be a lot of fun. There's going to be some more videos like this that I'm going to do, and I hope you all enjoy it. And come back on the next one. Thanks, folks.